I let them know that if they'd considered putting her away, it would have met with my approval. But you remember what Mr. Berkeley did? I shook my head. He denied it, then gave 4 reasons why it would have been a good idea. His own mother rejected Birdie. Their friends at church urged them. They were both out at work and couldn't watch her. And Birdie set her dress on fire. He nodded. 3 times. It was almost as if, while denying it with one part of his mind, another part was seeking to justify it. Then immediately he looked at his watch and told us he had an appointment. In that way he cut off further questions. Now it could have been true that he had an appointment, but what made me suspicious was that Neptune clock not a foot from his face on the mantel, yet instead of looking at it he pulls out his watch. Remember, I was tapping with my stick when he did it. I've told you before that it's easy to reveal yourself in a falsity if there are other distractions. The mind can only work on so much at the same time. I nodded. It was a trick I'd seen him use before, sometimes to good effect, sometimes to none. Anyway, when he gave himself away with his watch, I assumed only that he'd considered putting her away. After all, that was what I asked. But then last night I remembered the rent collector. It just came to me. She thought Birdie had left a year ago, when in fact it was only 4 or 5 months before that she was married. A rent collector would know who's living in the building, I think. When I told her it was July, she raised her eyes, as people do when they try to remember. She was confused. Then she frowned, indicating she remembered it differently. She didn't want to contradict me, that would be impolite, but her face betrayed her. So where was Birdie during those months? That's when it came to me. Perhaps our Mr. Berkeley hadn't just considered putting her away. Perhaps he'd actually done it. Perhaps he'd put away his own daughter. You don't approve? You said your relative's treatment was effective. It was effective. It killed him. I watched him puffing away, expecting him to explain. He didn't. His head drooped. His eyelid was low over his good eye. His skin, specked with grit and smudged with soot, was dull and lifeless. He looked like he hadn't slept for days. "Who was he?" I asked at last. "It's a long story, Norman. I'll tell you another time." He took a deep breath, trying to rouse himself. "Right now we need to think through the case. It explains why the Berkeleys have been deceiving us about where they lived. They didn't want us to believe they'd had her committed, else we'd question why they want her back now. We'd question all they've told us. So what else? It seems the asylum has an arrangement with the farm. The country air's doubtless very good for a lunatic, or laudable enough. But this is what I'm puzzling over. Why did Crenshaw run off to consult Tasker when he imprisoned us? He'd found us breaking into the office. Tasker's the chair of the board. Yes, but if we agree he didn't go to the police because he was afraid we'd let out the secret of his affair with Mrs. Grant, why then did he go to Tasker? He wouldn't want to explain that to the chair of visitors, would he? Tasker's the last person he'd want to admit it to. They may have been closer than you think, or he may have invented a story about us. He nodded. Yes, you're right, of course. But there's something wrong with that asylum. I'm sure of it. You're getting distracted, William. This is nothing to do with the case. There's a killer on that farm, and we need to make sure Etty and Neddy are safe. That's the most important thing right now. We'll get them tonight, Norman. Rest assured, we'll bring them home. But first, we must make sure the police search that dung pit. We must away to Lewisham before the MP's surgery closes. It was only then I remembered the star I'd taken from Lewis that morning. I pulled it out of my coat and passed it to him. Page 3, I said. You're not going to like it. He read it in silence, his eye moving across the page. His temples pulsed. his lips pressed together so tight they went white. Then, with a howl of fury, he threw down the carriage window and hurled the newspaper out of the speeding train.